It's week 8 in the CFL, and before we get into it, we need to create some extra space to discuss week 7. And we're going to introduce a new segment called Hot or Not. But first, I want to take a moment to extend my condolences to the friends and family of Bishima Rajaguru and Jaden Dalkey, 2 young souls lost way too early. Regardless of the outcome of the investigation and the determination of what happened, this is heartbreaking for the families and communities surrounding these young men. Although we can't bring them back, we can all show love and respect to those who are grieving. Week 7 brought us the first meaningful impact of some of the new rules, a 2 and out of the game for Nathan Rourke, and another coach, another unfounded argument against the officiating. I personally enjoyed the impact the rule changes had on the games this week. Although I love the Rouge for the impact it can have on a game, I do see the value in not gifting a point to a team for a missed field goal. The Hamilton-Toronto game was a prime example of that. As much as I love me some overtime, the latter half of that game was a dumpster fire, and I had no interest in seeing those teams go to overtime. As for the Winnipeg-Ottawa 2-point conversion shootout, chef's kiss. I loved it. I will take that energy and chaos over a tie any day. As mentioned, we're going to introduce a new segment to our weekly picks, the Hot or Not of CFL football, where we celebrate the good, what we're excited for, and what we're loving, and we call out the bullshit. First up, no more ties in the CFL. Hot. Quarterback injuries. We know it's part of the game, but we are so over it. Not. Keon Hatcher one-handed catches. Very hot. Coaches getting so caught up on a penalty that they let it bleed into the rest of the series. Definitely a not. We always tell players, next play, let's hold ourselves to the same standard. Winning against the team that traded you, even if by a small margin, hot. Pinning the outcome of a game on one missed play. For example, a missed field goal, a missed convert, missed tackle, a dropped pass. Obviously, it is these athletes' jobs to get it done and make it happen. But the reality is, no one is capable of operating at a 100% success rate. That's not realistic. Also, I just don't buy into the concept of the bigger the moment, the bigger the responsibility. The catches, tackles, and field goals you make at the start of the game, in the middle of the game, matter just as much as the ones at the end. If you don't want to lose by 1 point, don't put yourself in that position in the first place. And the only way that happens is by doing the right things from start to finish. It's making plays at the start of the game all the way to the end. Aiming for 100%, but knowing it's not attainable. This is a not. That's it for our first Hot or Not segment. Let's get into the picks for week 8. First up is the Elks visiting Saskatchewan. So far this season, the Elks have consistently struggled against the BC Lions, especially when it comes to the run game. However, they have shown up against all of their other opponents. Yes, I think the Saskatchewan Roughriders will be able to learn a lot from the success of the Lions against the Elks. However, they emotionally have a lot on their plate right now. As much as the devastating loss of Bishima Rajaguru and Jaden Dalkey has nothing to do with football, it has everything to do with football. You all know how much I appreciate and adore Corey Mace as a leader. One of the things I adore so much about him is his emotionality, the way he cares for athletes, and respects humans in general. I think it is one of his biggest strengths. However, the downside of that is potentially dealing with a situation like this. It gets heavy. The Elks bounced back strong after their first loss to BC, and I expect them to use the drop-off during last week's game, even though it was a win, to launch them forward this week. With Roland Milligan Jr. back on the field for the Riders, I do expect them to have an edge. But their run defense is a little too exploitable for me to think they can hold Rankin at bay. I really, truly think the Elks have what it takes to win this game, which apparently no one else does. I'm rolling with the Elks. Next up, we have the Stampeders taking on the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And if you were to swap the records of these two teams, things would make a lot more sense in the Western Division. The Stampeders' record of 2-4 does not showcase or support who Calgary actually is as a team, the talent they have, and the points they've put up. Luckily, the CFL season is long, and Calgary has plenty of time to set the record straight. At the end of the day, this is a playoff caliber team. As for Winnipeg, unfortunately, we didn't get the true grudge match energy between Winnipeg and Ottawa last week, but what we did see was a struggling Bombers team. I'll give the Red Blacks credit. They certainly played their hearts out, a necessity for being on the verge of 0-6. But Winnipeg should have been better. They settled for way too many field goals, came out too slow, and are not running the ball like they should be. I think the Stampeders finally lock in another win this week. Let's go Stamps. We have the World Cup Bowl taking place in BC this week as one of the two teams who spent the start of the season displaced by the World Cup finally gets to step back on home turf. The Argos will visit the Lions for a pool party. With two not-so-great records, which of these teams will continue to tread water this season, and which will continue sinking towards the bottom of the pool? Last week, the Lions defense had another strong performance against the Elks, holding top of the league running back Justin Rankin to only 9 yards and forcing the Elks to utilize him more as a receiver, just like they did in their first game. However, BC may have successfully limited the Elks' rushing yards, but they limited their own as well, recording only 15 total rushing yards. The good news for Toronto is exactly that. The fact BC has a good run defense, because Toronto simply doesn't run the ball. I expect the BC secondary to get exposed again this week, especially with Chad Kelly throwing bombs down the field. However, the inconsistent and often erratic decision-making from Kelly could result in some success and takeaways for the secondary. And if BC can get the pass rush going, I know Betson Tavai can make Chad Kelly's life hell. However, with Rourke out and Bryce in, I just don't think this BC Lions team has the offensive ability to run with the high-scoring energy of Toronto. Yes, home crowd. Yes, Toronto is beat up from their ongoing road trip, but I just don't like those odds. I gotta go with the Argos. Finally, in a battle of the East, we have the Ticats visiting Montreal to take on the Alouettes. The Alouettes are no doubt the strongest team in the league right now. They're consistent, powerful, and gritty, and continue to build on the solid base they have built since their 2023 Grey Cup win. The Ticats are making miracles happen, but there are only so many miracles available in a 21-week season without your starting MOP-level quarterback. I do think Trey Ford looked arguably the best he ever has last week. Perhaps the structure of Milanovic's offense, mixed with the chaos that is Trey Ford, can come together and make something magical happen. Regardless, with their O-line riddled with injuries, to the point that they had to finish last week's game with a tight end stepping in at right guard, concerns me. Montreal does have a tendency to play down to who they are playing at times, so I think the spread at 10.5 for this game is potentially a bit aggressive. However, I think Hamilton used their monthly miracle last week, so it's going to be the Owls for me. That's it for week 8. We've seen a lot of movement this week in terms of player releases and player signings. We're at that point in the season where teams are either bringing in fresh blood to keep their ceiling high or out of pure desperation. Let us know in the comments who you're rolling with this week and what you expect to see out of these teams as we drift into the latter half of the start of the season. As always, thank you for listening to Blitz and Bloom. Please take a moment to like, comment, subscribe, and share so other football fans like you hear about our show.